This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, for those of you who are new, we record these meetings for the purpose of a lot of guys can't either hear the whole thing or can't make the meeting or whatever. And sometimes the information goes past us in our condition, and a lot of people like to hear it later on. So that's why we kind of do this. If you have objection to that, we can go around it and not use your name or whatever. So just let us know. So we've got at least 3 new people tonight. So we're going to start off, and I think I described to at least 2 of you the way we work it is I'm going to ask you some questions one at a time, and we'll take you one at a time and kind of give you a chance to go over your concerns, give what your questions might be with this group. We've got a pretty experienced collective brain and heart trust here. A bunch of us have been dealing with this disease for quite a few years and many different aspects of it. We'll get right to it. Okay, so let me go back to my notes here. So several of you came in new through the Zero meeting the other day. So Jefferson, let's start with you. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and just don't go into it in too much detail, but just give us a quick thing. When you were diagnosed, what was your Gleason score, your PSA level at your diagnosis?
My PSA was up to 76, and I had no Gleason score because they did a biopsy on my back.
Yeah, let me just interrupt a minute. Jefferson, we
and I'm not new, so
yeah, you're not
go
new.
to the new people.
Right, we spoke to Jefferson as a new person before, Peter.
Oh, okay. I wasn't, okay. I got the signal mixed up.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you have Stan, Ted Healy, and Mark Thompson. Ted Healy and Mark Thompson definitely came through the Zero group that we did.
Okay, so Mark, let's start with you because you called one of the first ones. So what was your Gleason and PSA?
Sure, my name is Mark Thompson from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and originally my Gleason score, or the PSA, was only 4.7. Originally the Gleason scores were 3+3, both of them were 6. I ended up having surgery at Hopkins, and then after the surgery, they found out my actual Gleason scores were 9s. So they also...
Really? Okay. Sorry, just a little bit of shock and awe here for me. Okay. And where were you being treated? Which doctors did you see?
I've been treated both at the Tunnel Cancer Center in Lewis, Delaware, but then I went to Johns Hopkins and had the laparoscopic robotic surgery. I was 47 when I was diagnosed, so I ended up having surgery at 47 with Dr. Mishap Han at Hopkins, and then I follow up. My 9 months later, my PSA started to rise. And that's when I started on the journey of having bone scans, CAT scans, and then also a bone biopsy out of my sacrum at an S1.
Okay, so you've had surgery, and how are you doing now?
I'm doing well, and then I followed up with radiation, and then I started on the androgen therapy, deprivation therapy, the product Lupron. I've been on that since 2015. I'm now 55. I do have a medical specialist oncologist back at Hopkins. They did a genetic mutation testing and found that I did have a genetic mutation, which he called it TP53. And that was with Dr. Anton Narakis at Hopkins.
Good. You got a good doctor. You've got a great doctor.
So he's asked me to continue to do the Lupron therapy, to do that every 3 months instead of going to a 6 month. I wanted to come off of it completely, but he really highly advised me not to do that. He said I cannot afford to have any testosterone that can feed the cancer. So I've been fighting that for years, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to come on the group. But he's highly recommending me not to do that, to stay on the 3 month shot and not go to the 6 month shot, because he feels that it would stop working probably around the 4 or 5 month. And he said I should really stay on the 3 month shot.
Does he have you on any kind of second line drug like abiraterone or Xtandi or anything else other than just Lupron?
No, it's just Lupron, and I am grateful. I should say the PSA level, since I started on the Lupron and after I had the radiation and the loop, it came back to less than 0.1. So it has been undetectable and it has not risen. So it's been over 5 years. He said usually with this mutation and with my being more aggressive, he thought that it would only probably hold for about 2 years, but now it's been 3 extra years. It's been a total of 5 years so far.
Very good. So you're still sensitive to it. So I have to ask you this question because I want to make sure I heard this right. When you said you were first diagnosed as a Gleason 6, 3 plus 3?
Yeah, there was two biopsies out of the 12 that came back positive, and they both were 3 plus 3 was 6. But after the pathology report, they looked at it and it came back as 9s and not 6s.
Like 4 plus 5, you mean?
Yes, correct.
Well, I don't know who did the original biopsy. I mean, do you still see that? Was it a local urologist or something?
Yes, it was a urologist here locally in Lewis, Delaware. But after I had the surgery, Dr. Mishap Han and then Dr. Anton Narakis, they went back to test the original biopsy, and they wanted the actual slides from the biopsy. They didn't just want to have the paperwork from where I had the biopsy. So they went back to look at the original biopsy, and then that's when they did the genetic testing. And they felt that the Gleason score was a 9 and not a 6.
So it's quite a story. So
somebody wrote it upside down.
I'm sorry to laugh. I mean, that's a good comment. Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's rare. It's very rare that you hear that kind of discrepancy, and it's why we always ask. It's in fact, Dr. Epstein at Hopkins says everybody should get a second opinion on pathology, regardless of their original diagnosis. And some urologists push back at that, but you're a good case in point of why it's important to really get a second take on this stuff. So,
Correct.
Do you have any specific questions or concerns you want to address to the group tonight?
Well, the Lupron question, but also I still deal with a lot of I call it my discomfort level. I still have a lot of pain in my sacrum area where the tumor was. I mean, they originally did the biopsy, but I mean, for years I wouldn't even be able to sit down. I used to do triathlons. I was a triathlete. I taught indoor cycling classes for many, many years. And so I finally got myself a recumbent bike, but I still can't sit on a hard chair. I mean, I've had, again, Dr. Anton Narakis has explained to me that I should have bone scans and CAT scans every 2 years. Still have the blood work done every 3 months, Lupron every 3 months, bone scans, CAT scans every 2 years. So it's basically dealing, with the Lupron side effects, especially the lethargic fatigue. And I mean, I do exercise. I'm able to walk. Thank God. I'm grateful for that. But I know you guys have 34 people. I don't want to be all about me, but I definitely want to learn and hear what your experience that you guys have gone through. And I can do that privately with somebody if they need to too. I don't want to take away from the group.
That's okay. I mean, it's, well, I think everybody would agree you've got a great medical oncologist on your team. You couldn't ask for someone better. I don't know him personally, but a lot of people speak very, very highly of Dr. Antanarakis. Ken Anderson, do you want to?
So, Peter, I just want to pose a question to the group, and this is what came to my mind when Mark came into the lounge last week. Anybody else here with the TP53 mutation who has done intermittent hormone therapy? What struck me as interesting was Mark's comment that Dr. A will not consider intermittent if you've got a TP53 mutation, which often goes with P10, PTEN. Do you have P10 mutation as well, Mark?
Not that I know of. I think the only thing he's mentioned is TP53.
TP53. So the question I really would like to hear back from the group is that any of you guys who have done intermittent, some of you have done it frequently for a long time, including you, Peter. Do any of you have TP53, and does anybody know anything about not doing intermittent if you have TP53?
Well, I don't think I have it, but I don't think I've ever heard that. I mean, I was doing intermittent before I even really knew what my genetic markers were. But this is the first I've heard about that.
You know, Rick, I can say I do have that. Paul's never brought it up, but I've never done intermittent either. So I don't know.
Be interesting next time you talk to Paul for Mark's benefit. That's Dr. Korn at MD Anderson, who's another one of our favorite docs. Be interesting to get his view on whether you're a candidate for intermittent with TP53, Ken.
Yeah, I can pose that to him as well and present it next time. You know, after I chat with him, I have chemo on Friday, so I'm sure I'll chat Monday, Tuesday.
Okay.
Ken, while you're on, do you want to mention to Mark about the under 60 group that might be relevant for Mark since he's only 55?
Yeah, I can do that. But more than that, maybe it's dealing with side effects. You know, ADT side effects. There are things you can do for like fatigue. You know, for when I first started, you know, 4.5 years ago, I started ADT. I ran into a guy that told me about American Ginseng. And it did, in fact, help for about a year. You know, you take it as a tea, and it took away, maybe it was placebo, I don't know, but the fact that it worked, I could say I felt better. And so you might try that. But the under 60 group is a monthly thing, and it's the second Thursday of the month, you know, 4 p.m. on Mountain Standard Time. But if you want to be included, you can just post your email in the chat window, and we can include your email address.
Well, I've signed Mark up already for that, so he should have gotten your reminder. Mark, you should have gotten a reminder today for that.
I have it on that one.
But it is this Thursday is the next one. This 2 days from now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll make sure you get it. Mark, I mean, I know that you have a strong background in holistic medicine and complementary medicine. There was a good, I don't know if you're aware, but Memorial Sloan Kettering has a herb of the month, I think they call it. And this past month was American Ginseng. So I am going to post the link to the Memorial Sloan Kettering article on American Ginseng in the chat window, which is the little bubble in the top.
Yes.
I'll put the link in there, and then you and anybody else can look for it. I'm just searching for it right now.
Peter, can I ask a question of Mark?
Sure.
Mark, this is Gary. I also, I had robotic surgery in September from Dr. Hahn at Hopkins. I had several complications after that. Were you pleased with the treatment you received?
Yes, very much so. Dr. Mishap Han, I really liked him. He was very compassionate, very empathetic, and I saw him for follow-ups. And then after, when my PSA went up after 9 months, he called me and he told me, and I was like, kind of like, okay, what's next? And he's like, he was just very compassionate but I had no problems with him at all. I mean, he did a phenomenal job. I mean, I had nerve sparing. I was still able to get erections for a long time. But after my radiation treatments, unfortunately, I've had a really hard time with any kind of erections. I've tried, Cialis, all of those. I even tried Trimix. So, I mean, I was very pleased. I'm very grateful that I did get over to Hopkins, and then Dr. Mishap Han did refer. He's the one that was able to get in. He was able to get me in to see Dr. Anton Narakis. So I was very glad and very grateful for that.
And how many radiation treatments did you have?
They wanted me to have 48, but the other oncologists, we stopped at 25 because they felt that if I ever needed to have radiation again, that I would kind of consider to have some in the bank, to be able to have some later on. So I did 25 treatments of salvage radiation here at the Tunnel Cancer Center.
Yeah, I'm scheduled for 40.
So, Mark, can I ask a question? So you had the radiation treatment. Did you have scans to localize any tumor outside the prostate?
Yeah, they found, I think it was 3 centimeters at S1 on my sacrum. And then that was the main one that I had. And then I had 2 other ones on the ilium, on the hip, on the pelvis area. And so that's why they decided to do salvage radiation.
Mm-hmm. So these were in your bones in those areas, or lymph nodes?
Correct. Yeah, and I also had an invasion of the neck of the bladder, but I've never had I've had bladder issues, I think, from the radiation. But the main one is the sacrum at S1 in my lower back.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I deal with most of my pain, and it feels compromised, is what I should say.
And that was radiated.
Yes, correct.
So, Mark, let me just ask, was this spot radiation to the specific lesions, or did you just have follow-up salvage radiation across your pelvic girdle, or did you have both?
They had both, yes, correct.
Okay.
And was that radiation done at Hopkins?
No, it was here done at the Tunnel Cancer Center, but they have a lot of people that work here that are from Hopkins.
So, Mark, this is Peter.
I mean, the real issue, Mark, is you have a really good response to ADT after so many years. However, getting back your testosterone does not seem to me like it's going to deal with your major issue, which is the pain that you're experiencing in your sacrum.
Correct.
Can I ask a question for Mark? Mark, hi, I just want to say, first of all, I got some of that Wisconsin ginseng that Rick was talking about. I never take it, but it's in my cupboard, and every time I look at it, I feel a little bit better. So it's just there. I never actually drink it. But I want to ask you, talk about your marathoning life or triathloning life, and how fit you were. And I just was in the car on the phone on the call. What's your exercise right now like?
I finally been able just walking, and then of course in the wintertime I hate being outside, but I bought myself a recumbent bike. It's a bike where you sit back and your feet are out in front of you.
Oh, yeah.
I've actually gotten 2 of those, and I actually did a pedal away prostate cancer fundraiser that was in Dover, Delaware, through the Delaware Prostate Coalition several years ago. So I do bike on that. So
you have 2 of those?
What's that?
Okay, you have 2 of the recumbent bikes?
a recumbent bike.
You said you have two of them.
Yeah, I ended up buying two of them, so that way
You run them both at the same time.
they can join me.
Okay, that's good. Well, you know, you're in a tough spot, but the most that you can do is what will help you with a great deal of the loop-on side effects. You know that.
Yes.
So, Mark, I've got one quick question for you, just for group information. It's great to have you aboard. You've got quite a story. When you were 47, what drove you to get diagnosed? Were you having back pain, or was it just a routine PSA?
It was just through my general PT, or my general PT, my primary care physician. Years ago, I had low levels of testosterone for a while. I used to be very lethargic, very tired, and they checked my testosterone. So they actually put me on the testosterone supplementation. I forget what the brand was called, but I used that for several years. And when they start checking your PSA at that point, and so he started seeing my PSA level rising. And it wasn't that high. I mean, the highest it was ever was 4.7, but he saw it over maybe a year period or a couple years and decided that I should see a urologist. And then that's when they recommended to do, of course, you know, I didn't want to believe it. So I stopped cycling. I stopped, you know, having sex, or, you know, not having an orgasm 24, you know, did all those things. I did that several times. You know, it still kept on going up. And just like, I've been doing massage therapy for, I guess back then, I mean, now it's been 21 years, but I also do myofascial release work. So I actually went up to see some PTs, physical therapists up in Pennsylvania, and actually did a 2-week intensive before I had the surgery. And they do pelvic floor work, and they actually went in and worked on the prostate. Female physical therapist, and my numbers actually dropped, but then they still felt that I should have that biopsy. But
well, I mean, they recommend that guys in their 40s start getting their PSA checked. I mean, I've got 2 sons in their 40s. One does it religiously, but I'm not sure about the other one. Anyway, it's a remarkable story, and I'm glad you've been fighting this. I would recommend you hook up with Ken on Thursday, because you guys under 60 have some unique things to work with.
Thank you.
Discuss.
Peter, I just want to tell Mark, I'm looking through guys that I know have TP53 on our list. At least one of them has done a significant amount of intermittent, and his doc used to be Chuck Ryan, who is another one of our favorite doctors, and his current doc is, and when Jimmy left, sorry, when Chuck left, he was switched to Eric Small, and Eric Small has had him on intermittent. So I am puzzled about this TP53 and the intermittent. I mean, as Herb says, that might not be the cure for you, but I'm just puzzled that he won't put you on. He won't even consider intermittent with TP53. And I mean, Herb, you have TP53, don't you?
I do indeed have a P53 mutation, but I am certainly not having PSA low enough to even consider intermittent.
Right.
But I mean, my own sense of it is, again, I mean, Mark, you were saying that your real issue is pain. If that's not what I heard.
No, that's part of it. I mean, part of it's dealing with a discomfort that I deal with all day long. I mean, it's about a 3 or 4. I mean, it's not like it's 6 or 7 like it used to be.
No, but yeah, well, but you know, there are those of us who are a lot older who just have that all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah. What Geller forgets to tell you is that he's 76, God bless him, and he runs every day, and he's on hormone therapy.
Well,
You know, one thing that's a little strange, you talk about getting scans every 2 years, and your PSA seems negligible now. So even when the highest it reached was 4.7, you say, so makes me wonder if you have some possibilities for like a prostate cancer that doesn't produce a lot of PSA, and that's why he's so concerned to keep focusing on getting scans and taking Lupron, because you're does not going to use your PSA as a key marker for making a decision to go to intermittent. Because it's a little strange that he doesn't think about that, or maybe you want to talk to him if you suspect some other kind of, I don't know, necessarily mean neuroendocrine, but some other reason that your PSA never went high, but you got a Gleason 9. I don't know. It's just a little strange profile there, it seems. I don't know if anybody can feel that.
Yeah, Larry, you did mention that, and I forgot. You know, he did tell me that. He said, unfortunately, with you, we cannot really totally rely on the PSA because it could be not manifesting, but it could be progressing and not even realizing it with a PSA.
Yeah, then I can understand his.
Yeah. What was your PSA diagnosis, Mark?
4.7.
That's what I thought you said. And is that the highest it's ever been?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask you what you're hoping to get out of going off of hormone therapy?
Well, it's just the energy level. I mean, I used to see 5.5, 6 clients a day. I haven't been able to even see clients probably for the last 2 years. I specialize in John F. Barnes myofascial release work now, so I specialize in TMJ and dentists to refer me clients. But I'm not able to see clients. I just had to hire more staff to be able to have a clientele base. I do get frustrated with that. I am, I tell myself I'm aging. I'm 55 now, but I see a lot of guys that are 55 and they're a lot more active than I am. And I just today I went for a walk. I went twice, and I'm exhausted. I'm definitely tired. It's not a fatigue. I'm sure you guys relate with this. It's not like a fatigue. It's just pure exhaustion. Sometimes I'll just lay down and I'll fall right to sleep. And I did have my hemoglobin kept on going low. So my oncologist here I went in for iron infusions. And I went in for a colonoscopy, upper, lower. They also did a pill cam. So somehow I was bleeding, but they never found anything. So they don't know what was going on.
Yeah. Well, we hear you. Many of us wrestle with the same thing. I know I do. I recently asked my oncologist if I can go. I've been on intermittent on and off for 7 years, but I've been on now for the last. Every time I go off, things go south, and I have to do some other treatment. I just did chemo, but I wanted to go off again for that very reason you're talking about, even though I'm quite a bit older than you. And I mean, nobody else understands it. I mean, people can know what low testosterone is, but nobody quite understands what no testosterone is. It's a beast unto itself, and it really can knock us for a loop. Like, we sympathize with you.
That horse.
Hey guys, can I ask a quick question? I haven't spoken yet. My name is Steve Lynette, and I apologize profusely for interrupting a little bit. Believe it or not, in 5 minutes I have to run to get an MRI on my back because of possible spinal cancer with the prostate cancer. I originally tuned in today because they were advertising that someone who's been on Androjet, whatever it is, what's it, the pill form?
ADT.
No, I know, but Orgovyx. I'm sorry. And I'm meeting with my oncologist tomorrow at UCLA, and we're going to come up with a hormone program, which I'm dreading after hearing all these stories. The question is, I thought someone today was going to be speaking, someone who's been on Orgovyx for a while was going to be speaking. Is there anyone on here now who could speak to that? Guess not.
Go for it, John.
Okay.
John?
Yeah, I've been on it, but I've just been on it for 2 weeks, or actually, maybe it's 3 weeks now. Is this the first time you're going to be on ADT?
Yes.
I haven't found the side effects to be that different from the Lupron I'm on, and I'm also on abiraterone. I mean, it's definitely, it's nice to have a pill instead of getting the Lupron shot, which used to make me sore for a whole day the next day sometimes. In fact, making it hard to walk, but that only lasted for a day. But other than that, I haven't found it to be that much different. I switched.
I did have a conversation. I did have a conversation with my medical oncologist today about that same subject. And her attitude was they don't want to take a chance on compliance.
What do you mean?
In fact, if this stuff, that basically you got to take it every day. And if you miss, your testosterone is going to come back fast. So there is this element of maybe it's distrust by your oncologist, but you really got to be making sure, if you get those pills, you got to make sure you don't miss anything.
Well, I have faith in myself. I'm taking 1,000 other pills every day, so that shouldn't be. I'll just make it 1,001. But I'm going to push for the Orgovyx.
But before I really want to get Mark is still. I still don't think we actually helped Mark through his decision making here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, Mark, do you have a sense of whether you think this is a good idea or not at this point?
Oh yeah, I mean, I appreciate you guys. I mean, it's just nice that, I mean, I've met other guys, but I have not met guys in the same situation that I've been in on long-term Lupron and doing these scans every 2 years. Every time I hear, the guys are in stage 1, or, when they said that I had advanced prostate cancer, you think at age 55, you think you're the only one dealing with this, but I know that there's other guys out there like myself dealing with this on a daily basis. So I appreciate it.
Okay, I want to move on because we have 2 other new guys that we want to get to here, and everybody, a lot of other people want to speak tonight. So
actually, quick suggestions to Mark. That seems to be new as well. So we've got 3, unfortunately.
Okay, so Ted. Did I get that right?
Yes,
Hi,
it is.
Ted.
Yeah, Ted. Hi, I'm logging in from.
How old are you, Ted?
I'm 63.
63. And where are you from?
Portland, Oregon.
Okay. And when were you first diagnosed?
February of 2018.
Okay. And a diagnosis, Gleason score, and PSA?
First was a PSA of roughly 4.7. And then there was one done months later. It went to a 5.9 a couple months later.
Okay.
Biopsy was done. It was a 4.3 with perineal invasion.
Okay. And you're seeing it. Who are you seeing in Portland?
I was seeing, I cast the net out, so I was seeing a number of people, a radiation oncologist, a urologist, and then a oncologist. I'm currently seeing the urologist. I'm currently in remission. I have been diagnosed as stage 4 metastatic.
Okay, so they did scans on you, and then what they find? Bone metastasis?
What happened was I had the prostatectomy. They did a pathology report. I must say I also had my biopsy checked by Johns Hopkins. The pathology report showed that I had what's called a tertiary 5. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that moved me to, depending on which doctor you talk to, a 9 or a 10. The PSA remained persistent. So I went on and had a 36 zappings IMRT, and then 6 months of Lupron with 2 Lupron shots, 3-month shots. I'm currently in remission. Currently, there's nothing. It's undetectable right now, thank God.
Okay. Yeah, so they still consider you a 4+3, or did they upgrade that?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. You know, tertiary 5 is very new in terms of what's out there. So they're just calling me stage 4 metastatic. They're keeping it at that.
Okay.
So where did they see, I mean, tertiary 5's been around a long time, Ted. I mean, going back years and years. I don't think there's anything new about it. If they see it, they'll normally state it. But where did they think you had the bone mets? How did they see the metastasis, and where was it?
I kind of skipped over that. I did have a PET scan, occipital PET scan, and it showed activity in the bladder. There's nothing in the bone. I'm considered. They cannot. What is it? MO.
Yeah.
It's there, but they can't find it. They don't know where it is. It's in my bloodstream. So there was activity shown in my bladder neck.
Okay, so the bladder neck is what pushed you to being considered T4.
Right.
Got it. And then you had the RT for how long? Did you do 36 sessions of RT?
36.
Yeah. And that was all in Portland?
Yes, it was at the Robert France Cancer Center. The Dr. Bader was the radiation oncologist, and Dr. Cost is my urologist. And that's who I'm seeing right now, Gregory Cost. He's the head of robotic surgery at Providence. He did the prostatectomy.
Yeah. Sorry, Peter, to interrupt. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, so what concerns or questions might you have?
I'm just here to learn. I just want to. I'm volunteering for Zero. I did a lot of grant work when I was younger in the Key West. I'm going to see if they take me as a consumer peer reviewer. So I'm just continuing on increasing my knowledge, what's out there.
Okay, well, remission is an interesting term for, I think all of us have kind of, people like to label us as being in remission. But with advanced disease, most of us are going to spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulder.
I know, I have the elephant in the room. I'm coming up in another month. Yeah, I know the elephant's there. The sword of Damocles. Yeah, it's over my head. I get it.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any?
Yeah, Peter, a couple of things. One is, Ted, what year? I'm sorry, I missed that. I was trying to answer somebody in the chat. What year were you diagnosed?
2018.
2018. It's tough. I think if it were me, and I was still, and you're not getting Lupron shots anymore, is that right?
No, I'm not. That's right.
So you're not on any treatment anymore?
That's correct. Yeah.
I think if it were me, I'd still seek a consult and get a medical oncologist onto my team so that they know what's going on. Because if there's any type of recurrence, you really don't want your urologist treating you. And the other issue is, that you. And then also like lemon and honey. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by. You've got somebody close to you talking.
Hey, Mayor. Excuse me, Mayor. Is there? Can you? They're picking up your conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's really a toughie. You don't need treatment now. You're not getting your Lupron shots now. But you have very weird disease again, second time today. You've never made a whole heck of a lot of PSA. There may be reason to do some scanning just to make sure that there's still nothing there. I mean, I sure would like to get somebody like Vuki or Tom Baer at OHSU to be aware of what's going on and just to have a say so. I don't know. What do other people think about that?
Well, I would agree. I think having a medical oncologist, close at hand on your team is really important. I mean, a urologist has just so much knowledge, but they don't go, beyond a certain level and expertise. Someone like Dr. Baer is amazing. If you've got access to him and can see him, I think, just having that at hand would be wonderful.
I agree, and I think any of your future treatments will be under the expertise of someone, GU Med-Onc, because it would be other types of hormone treatment, or it would be chemo or whatever else. And it's good to develop that relationship early on so they can watch you.
Yeah, I have, Rick, you had mentioned Dr. Baer at the summit, and I have him. I'm definitely going to try contacting him this week. In terms of the scans, I'm not a wealthy guy. What would be the insurance issues with something like that? Anybody got any guesses on that?
Well, I mean, you should be covered. I mean, you have been identified as having metastatic disease, and if the medical oncologist refers you, you'd have probably a copay for whatever it is.
Yeah, the copay I could do.
But the question is what it would pick up, and it's really, really tricky with guys that don't make PSA, prostate specific antigen, with scans, because we don't really know if the disease is progressing or not.
I tried to get the PSMA scan, but it was still experimental back then. So I had the Oxum scan because I'd seen that that is an issue. Smaller PSAs, lower PSAs. Yeah.
Len, what's your thoughts on scans?
Were you addressing that to me, Rick?
Yeah.
Yes.
His PSA is undetectable, right?
Yes.
It is right now, but the question is, how do you monitor a chap like this with strange disease who may have been metastatic at some point, had bladder neck? I mean, you just keep checking the PSA regularly, and I mean,
yeah. If you're concerned about a type of prostate cancer that is not producing PSA, then you do anatomic scans, like rather than a functional scan, do something like the CT, MRIs, maybe whole body MRIs, and I wanted to make the same recommendation to Mark Thompson, who sounds like he's even more likely to have cancer that's not producing PSA.
Yeah. Question for you, Ted. Have you had any genetic testing, either germline or somatic, done?
I have not, and that is on my list too to look into based on what I learned at the summit.
Yeah, I mean, you see, if you want to get that testing done, I would definitely, if it were me, I'd definitely be doing it through a medical oncologist, through a genitourinary medical oncologist, and not doing it through my urologist.
Okay.
And that might be a reason why you reach out to OHSU. And I know Ken Anderson, you're pretty familiar with what's available in Portland. Is there, other than OHSU, are there any other alternatives?
No, I would honestly say if you can get Tom, if you can get in there, it would be in Portland. That's probably the best, unless you want to travel to Seattle.
No, I'd prefer to keep it in Portland if that's possible. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we got to keep moving here.
Thank you.
Stan, let's go with you. Stan who?
Lapa.
How do you spell it?
LAPA.
Oh, LAPA. Okay, Lapa. And how old are you?
I'll be 71 in April.
Okay. And where do you live?
In a town called Victor, New York, outside of Rochester, New York.
Okay. And when were you first diagnosed?
In July of 2019.
Okay. And what was your Gleason score in PSA at that time?
I think the PSA was like 4.8. The Gleason at biopsy was 7.
4 plus 3?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And what have you been under treatment since then?
Prostatectomy the following September.
Okay. And anything else after that?
No, I'm at kind of a pivotal point right now. My first post-surgical analysis makes it a Gleason 8. It's a intraductal cell shape, and my urologist, Dr. Abraham Glazer, said he's going to be watching me like a hawk. My first post-surgical PSA was less than 0.02. 6 months later, I'm sorry, 3 months later, it was 0.05. And 2 Mondays ago, it went up to a 0.22. So, so at the last visit, which was March 1st, he said, "Well, if there's cancer somewhere, let's do a PET scan." So that's been scheduled for the 24th. In the meantime, my support group with on Wednesday night said the urologist, I need to step back from him and go. He was going to refer me to a radiologist, but I got on the horn with us two up here in Rochester and have the name of a very good radiation doctor named Jan Dombrowski. I don't know if you've heard of him up in Rochester here. So I got my all my records transferred to him, and he comes very well recommended. And I have an appointment to meet with him 2 days after the PET scan on the 26th. So that's where I am. That's where I am, kind of like not knowing what's going on.
Okay. So one of the recommendations that for sure is coming down the pike as soon as other people comment is that yes, see Dr. Dombrowski, but you probably want to get a good medical oncologist, one with experience with prostate cancer. Right. And you live in an area where they are kind of few and far between, but I'm sure there are some around, and someone might have a comment about that. But because when you're talking about a Gleason 8 with possible intraductal disease, you want to get a medical oncologist keeping a close eye on this, not just a urologist, and probably not just a radiation oncologist. Anybody else have a
I had a positive margin, but no other, no lymph nodes, no seminal vesicles, no bladder invasion.
Okay.
Peter, this is Jake. I'm one of the ones that spoke to Stan on the Wednesday night call, and I suggested to him that a PET scan with a 0.22 is probably not going to show anything. and he may just be wasting his time. And I thought maybe somebody more knowledgeable could weigh in on that.
I understand that they, at that point, they use it as a baseline, if that's true.
Go ahead,
Len,
Len.
you're kind of the expert on scans and the
Yeah. So
PSA levels.
you've had surgery.
Oh yeah.
And you're thinking about salvage radiation. Is that right?
That seems to be what they're pointing me toward.
Okay, so I guess usually they want to do the salvage somewhere between 0.2 and 0.5. So you're right in the sweet spot there. Maybe they wanted to just check and see if they could come up with a CT or an MRI. Again, something that isn't PSA dependent to see if you have any lesions in your pelvic region where they would, extend the radiotherapy beyond just the prostate bed and take in the whole pelvic girdle. And of course, possibly even discover some bone mets, hopefully not, but that's probably what they have in mind, why they want a baseline scan. So they've never done a CT or MRI on you?
When I was first diagnosed, I had a bone scan and CT, and it didn't show anything.
But they want to do a PET scan now, Len, and PSA at 0.22 is not going to show up on any scan, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I would agree with Jake on that. That's unlikely to pick up anything.
So, guys, a couple of things that I'm thinking of. Tracy Saville isn't on the call today, unfortunately. He may still appear. He's got a guy that he in that area that he likes a lot at the University of Rochester Center. He seems to be pretty happy with him. I don't have his name in my notes. I wish I did. Maybe one of the things we should do is to place Stan in contact with Tracy, which we can do, and Tracy can talk to him about his local guy in Rochester. We've got another guy from Peter's group. Peter, you've got a guy who's in Rochester as well who just went through radiation. But he's a low intermediate guy, right?
Right. He just did high dose brachy.
Yeah. What's his name? No, not.
Okay.
Oh, I know. You're thinking about Doug,
Doug.
with the long beard,
Right.
right? He's good. But then there's another guy also from the Rochester area who did regular radiation oncology, regular RT, right?
Right.
So,
Stan, do you have an email that you could share with us?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So, Stanley, LAPA, all one word, Stanley Lapa @gmail.
Perfect. You're one of those lucky guys who gets to use his name on Gmail.
Yeah, without a number.
Without a number. Listen, my sister uses her first name with at Gmail. I've yet to meet anybody else who does that. But okay, look, what we'll do, we'll definitely tie you into Tracy Saville. Tracy's a younger guy, mid-50s. Ah, look, there you go. Thank you, Jefferson. That was the guy. Peter van Veldhuizen. There you are. And
He's an oncologist?
yes, he's a GU med-onc, isn't that right, Jefferson?
I believe that's what they said, yes.
I think that was the guy. And where are you, Jefferson?
I'm going to the University of Rochester for treatment, and my doctor is Dr. Victor, Adrian Victor.
And
I haven't had a chance to talk to her about Peter Veldhuizen.
Right. What sort of doc was Victor?
She's an oncologist.
Yeah, that's right. I remember we looked her up. She was an oncologist, but she wasn't a GU med-onc. So,
no.
Stan, if you click on that little bubble, you'll see that John Ivory's been kind enough to put a link in there for Peter van Veldhuizen. You can click on that link right now. It'll open up in your browser. You can look at it later. We'll definitely connect you to Tracy Saville. I think that's who he sees, but I'm not 100% sure. Now, if that's how he spells it, that's probably why I never wrote it down in his records. It had too many letters. I couldn't get that far. And we'll try and get you to we'll try and get you a name for a good doc. So there's no question you need a decent radiation oncologist, but it's probably, as the guys have said, a good idea to have the genitourinary medical oncologist over the top, you know, your quarterback.
That sounds great. The radiologist office told me that my first visit with him will be 19 minutes long, which I thought was great. That, you know, he'll evaluate all my records, and I heard he's a very good bedside manner, explains everything to you, and pays attention. So I'm looking forward to that. Opposite of my urologist.
Okay. Well, we'll connect you to Tracy and follow up. Take a look at this guy, John. Does Van Veldhuizen look like he's a GU med-onc?
Yeah, he's the director of GU medical oncology at the hospital he's at.
Right. He just moved there. He was in Kansas City before. So he got to U of R in 2020.
Okay.
So Stan, when you said there's, I'm trying to remember the wording you used. You said there's a possibility or a suspicion of intraductal cancer?
No, that was the first diagnosis that I received. That it's intraductal, and I didn't know what that meant until I just actually I talked to Ben on the call here, and my urologist confirmed it simply means it's the shape of the cancer cell when they look under a microscope.
Right. I was just going to bring Ben into this conversation. You're very quiet there, Ben. What do you got to say about intraductal?
It's often confused. It's one of these guys. It's different from ductal.
Yeah.
The names even don't relate to each other. The ductal and ductal just means it looks like ductal cells to a pathologist. Intraductal is actually in ducts. That's my understanding.
Oh, that's not what he said on Monday.
You say that's different from what he said.
Yeah. Yes.
He kind of minimized the topic. He didn't find it relevant, so I don't know.
How relevant do your docs find the intraductal, Ben?
So I have the ductal. So I have the other guy.
Yeah. Okay, you have the ductal. Sorry.
And Dana Rathkoff said, you know, she wasn't that interested. She said, you have a Gleason 8. They're weird. It doesn't matter that much that it's ductal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically what he said on Monday.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the connections. I look forward to reviewing the information, and good to be here. Thank you.
Okay, we'll email you some other information as after, you know, tomorrow or whatever. I'll get to it and give you some other contacts that we might have.
Yeah, and
okay.
I'll take care of it also in the next 24 hours, Stan, and give you a telephone number for Tracy. I'll connect you and I'll give Tracy a heads up, and keep coming back. There's lots of good information on this call.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anybody else new on the call? I've kind of lost it. I don't think.
I think that guy, Steve Lynette, left.
Well, yeah, he's been on before, I think. Okay, a number of people have, actually, it's quite a few of us in this last hour that have things to they want to bring up. Jeff Marchi, let's start with you.
Hello there. I just had my 6 weeks of Abby, and after 2 weeks, my PSA went from 1.2 to 0.8. After 6 weeks, it went from 0.8 to 1.3. So it appears that the Abby is not controlling my PSA. My doctor says if it goes up again next month, I'll have another PET scan, which I just had 2 of them 2 months ago. I'm wondering what other people, also she said that it's possible that Abby is still working to suppress the metastasis from growing, but the PSA rising is another issue. What do other people there think about this issue? What have been their experience when the PSA is rising after starting Abby?
Well, there are guys who have failed Abby on this call, right? Who else has failed Abby on this call?
Yeah, I had experience with exactly what Jeff is talking about. I was on Abby for 3 months, a couple of years ago. First 2 months, my PSA number actually doubled, but then it started coming down, and it was down in the 3rd month. So I wouldn't quit yet. Give it at least another month.
Okay. Yeah, well, they were doing that.
Yeah, there's something called Zytiga flare. Not sure if you understood.
The PCF has an article about what do you do when nothing works. And they said that some people are immune to Abby and that I guess there's 2 sides to where it actually works. And I don't know the technical jargon for it, but that one side of it will start producing even more, even though you'll have the suppression on one side and then the production of more PSA on the other because of the chromosomal problem, the fact that I'm BRCA2. And you're not familiar with that. There's an interesting article on PCF about what to do when nothing works. And
I'd like to make a comment. I'm on abiraterone also, and I don't think that it's fair to say yet that nothing works. In my personal opinion, it took quite a few months for me to see a significant decrease in PSA after I got on abiraterone.
I was surprised that it went down right away and then came back.
Coincidence.
Well, I'm willing to wait. Unless somebody else has something they're really interesting to say or even more, informative to say, I think we should move on since there's so many other people that want to talk.
Well, I think Carl Foreman should speak up because he failed Abby and he's also got a BRCA mutation.
Hello. Yes, BRCA2 mutation that was found with a biopsy related to my my surgery that I had back in November 2018. And based upon what they call precision medicine, I was told that I should go onto a PARP inhibitor. And at the time, there were none that had been FDA approved. I was given what's called off-label use to be able to get a prescription for olaparib, and I was on it for 2 years. And most of that 2 years, my PSA was undetectable. And now I'm going through a new trial because the olaparib has run its course for me.
Yeah. Thank you.
What about the Abby? You skipped over that. When did you do the Abby and how long did it take for you to fail it?
The abiraterone was started about 2 months prior to my surgery, and it was a total of 6 months. and it failed after, it started failing after 4 months. And at the 6-month mark, my oncologist said, we need to go on to another therapy.
And that's when you switched to the PARP inhibitor, Carl?
Yes.
Right. So, you know, Jeff, that's great information for you and Dr. H there.
I thought that next, how about the side effects from the PARP inhibitor, though? They're supposed to be pretty significant. Did you have many issues?
There were a couple of issues, but the fact that it was very effective for a pretty extensive period of time, the side effects were more than bearable.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Pat Martin, you have something you want to talk about tonight, right?
Yeah, I did. I was just going to share what went on when I went to my medical oncologist in Seattle. I'm back on ADT. Abby's in the mail. I got a Eligard shot. They did an maximum scan, found about 3 spots, 10 centimeters. Not in position to be able to radiate him. So just back on ADT. That's it.
Okay. So the Oxyman scan picked up something, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Three spots, about 10 centimeters. But since I've already had radiation to my pelvic bed, they didn't want to try to shoot for those in particular, inaccessible. So it's good.
Yeah, so I hope the ADT and abiraterone help shrink some of that.
It's been effective. I've had about 40 months of it altogether. I enjoyed a little bit of a vacation back on it. He figures, and I asked him about intermittent. He said, no, not with original diagnosis of Gleason 9, dirty margins. He says you'll be on it for life or until it stops working.
Right. Anybody else have any comments about Pat's journey here?
Yeah, just for my notes, did you say all 3 spots were in the pelvic bed?
Yes, nothing in the bones, nothing in the visceral. Other than that, feel fine.
Okay, John A., you said you had something this evening.
Yeah, should be a quick question. We touched on it earlier. My hematocrit has gone now from 50 to 36, and I'd like to know from anybody that's had this experience when to start being concerned, when to think about medications. My iron studies are okay. I'm pretty tired and easily winded. Any guidance about that?
John, what's your hemoglobin level?
I think it was 11.9 or something. Not too bad, but just very different from before. And definitely in the anemia.
What drugs are you on, John?
Abiraterone and Lupron.
Okay, so I've been on and off Lupron for years. My blood counts have been down for a long time. My hematocrit's been hovering around 30, 31 for years. And my hemoglobin's been around, it's below 10, 9.5, whatever. I thought it would jump back up quite a bit after chemo, but it still stays low. Unfortunately, I think, at least my experience with ADT is it does suppress my, it makes me anemic, and I can't get around it. I've checked iron level, my iron levels are fine and everything, but it's just my blood counts stay low. My white blood cells are fine. I hope yours are too.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So it's the anemia that's a challenge, And I think a lot of it, in my experience, is related to ADT. Anybody else have comments about that? Anybody else fighting with anemia?
Well, yeah, I mean, Peter, you didn't register. I do have a report for today, and yeah, my numbers are similar to what we just heard. It went in my hematocrit today is 37, which is lower than it's been, and hemoglobin is down as well, and so I'm concerned. So this may well be an effect of no testosterone.
The answer is it is an effect. It's not maybe,
right.
It is an effect. I mean,
so
we
I
know,
think,
we know that the longer
the
that
issue
you're
for
on,
me though, Rick, is, I've been on abiraterone for like over a year and several months. And so why should it be still going down? Why should hematocrit still go down?
it's cumulative, and we know that long-term ADT does lead to low-grade anemia. I mean, I was anemic after about a year and a half. I was only on Lupron, but I wasn't on Abby. But yes, I mean, you never seem to see extreme anemia, but you definitely frequently see low-grade anemia. I don't know what the treatment is for it, but I do know it's pretty common. I mean, on this call today, how many people who are currently on androgen deprivation therapy of some sort or another, or hormone therapy, have low-grade anemia? You've got quite a few. Now, what you do about it, I'm not sure.
Not much you can do.
There isn't much. I mean, Mark Thompson, you clearly know quite a bit about complementary medicine. I mean, is there any complementary medicine that you have recommended to your people that is helpful for anemia?
No, I haven't. I was looking when you guys were talking about American Ginseng. I don't promote any organizations or companies or anything like that. I definitely don't do telemarketing and all that stuff. But the most of the medications and the supplements that I take through Dr. Anton Narakis is life extension products.
Yeah, good.
So he does have me taking those supplements. But I was anemia too. I had that they couldn't figure out why. And Dr. Anton Narakis, he didn't really recommend me to have the iron infusions because he did say the same thing what you're just saying, Rick, about people that are on long-term androgen deprivation therapy do have that anemia problem.
Right. You can go to the health food store, and there's a lot of people that would be happy to sell you the cure-all thing. I've tried it, but they nothing seems to work. My oncologist told me as long as you're dealing with ADT, you're going to have this, and it compounds the fatigue issue. I mean, when your red count's down, your hemoglobin's down. I mean, your energy level sucks. I know that. I mean, you don't have much reserve. So it's something you got to deal with. But John, I'd keep. How often do you do your blood test, John?
About 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, you might want to ask your doc if you can do it more frequently, like every 3 months, just to track it, do a chart, just see how how it does and whether it holds steady or whether it drops, just for your own edification. But as I said, I wouldn't panic yet. I've been hovering around 31 for a long time, and it's not fun, but I'm managing it okay, and it's not a deal breaker for me.
So when they use drugs like epopotin or things like that, that's for chemotherapy patients then?
I went on a drug called Procrit to boost my red blood cells for quite a while. during chemo and even afterwards. But I went off of it after a while. In fact, I went off of it. I think my last shot was the end of the year, 31st of December. And it kind of worked for a little while, but it didn't really affect the hemoglobin and hematocrit much.
Oh.
Blood transfusion.
Red count.
How about blood transfusions?
Usually they usually won't do that until you're under 8 or something,
Right.
around
Right.
8 or something like that. Yeah.
That is, unless you're really severely anemic, they're not going to take a chance. I mean, if you're getting really heavy duty chemo and you're severely anemic and you need it, they'll give it to you, but not if you're moderately anemic.
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen a lot of guys get blood transfusions. The criteria is in some places less than 10, in some places less than 8. I used to see at UCSF that the docs there, the GU medoncs would give under 10, and they do make a big difference, and they do help. But most docs won't even start discussing it until you're under 10, and you know, I don't agree with the docs who wait until you get down to 8 because you feel so rotten. But it's somewhere in that region that they'll give it to you.
Yeah, when I went through chemo last year, and my numbers were dropping, I was really nervous about the thought of transfusions, because that was when COVID was just kind of bearing its ugly head. And I thought back to the days of HIV, and I thought, oh my God, they can't be screening blood for COVID-19 yet. The last thing I want to do is take a blood transfusion. Maybe by now they are, but I'd really be careful going there unless you really need it.
Thanks,
Okay, let's keep going here. Still got a lot of Paul Frieda. You said you had something tonight.
Yeah, I had some interesting experiences with the medical community in the last 10 days. I scheduled for my 5-year colonoscopy. My mother died of colon cancer. Pretty routine sort of thing. They scheduled an ultrasound before it, and I went in for the ultrasound. And when the report came back, it said I have a fatty liver, and the gallbladder looks normal without wall thickening or calculi. Problem is, I don't have a gallbladder. I had my gallbladder taken out 15 months ago. I have no idea how they make a mistake like that. I'm going to investigate it by getting the disc and then bringing it to another doctor to evaluate and see if it was the technician who screwed up or the doctor who screwed up. Anyway, I wish that were all that happened to me, because that didn't hurt me. But then I went in for the colonoscopy, and when I came out of the anesthesia at the end of the procedure, I was coughing like crazy, and I had a sore throat, like the worst strep throat I've ever had in my life. And to my amazement, they let me go home. And I figured, well, maybe they know what they're doing. And it got worse as I was home until I got the chills. Then I knew I was in deep trouble, because that means you've got a bacterial infection. So I walked to the emergency room, and they checked me into the hospital for 3 days. And I'm on my 10th day, no, my 7th or 8th day of antibiotics, and I'm still coughing. So get second opinions, and do not have a healthy skepticism of any doctor that you encounter.
Okay, but what's wrong with you, Paul? I mean,
I'm sorry.
Where did it come from?
I was diagnosed with pneumonia.
Oh, diagnosed with pneumonia, but and you think that? Well, first of all, we're all really sorry to hear that, and we're glad that you're feeling better. But was it just coincidence that it happened right after you had the colonoscopy? I mean,
No, of course not. It apparently your mouth is filled with bacteria, and your system automatically diverts it to the acids in the stomach, but sometimes the flap will get, out of sync, and if it goes into your lungs, you're in trouble. You get a bacterial infection, and that happened, when I was under anesthesia for the colonoscopy. So I never suspected I had any risk or danger in a colonoscopy, and I came out with it with pneumonia. Now, at my age, pneumonia can kill you. So I'm sort of pissed, and not exactly sure what I'm going to do about it. But right now, I want to get better, and I have been improving every day, but I still haven't kicked the cough, and so it's I've been told it can take a month to get rid of the pneumonia. So I'm hoping that we'll just keep getting better. But so I had a couple of really bad experiences in the last 10 days.
I mean, my question, and it's a rotten thing, but how could you ever avoid it? How would your GI doc ever know that you were carrying pneumonia if you didn't know yourself?
No, I didn't have pneumonia when I walked in for the colonoscopy.
Well, you must have had.
The anesthesia technique allowed me to get it. I believe if they had put the tube down that would have done my breathing for me, it wouldn't have happened. But they didn't do it that way. They didn't put me under that way.
I think you're right
so
about that.
What anesthetic did you have?
What's that?
What anesthetic did they give you?
I don't know what that is.
He probably had propofol and was not intubated.
Yeah. Right.
I have read that there's something something that there's a significant increased risk. I gotta find. I'll have to ask about that. And if they I'm going to be even more pissed because they should know that they're putting you under risk. It's a well-known risk apparently. So
all of you had COVID vaccines yet?
They gave me 2 COVID tests in the hospital, negative both times.
But you haven't had the vaccine though?
No, I haven't. I'm not sure I'm going to do it either.
Yeah.
What, you won't? Why wouldn't you do it?
Well, I don't interact with very many people. I'm retired. I do online teaching, and I've just heard too many stories. I don't see why I need to get it. I'm not at a serious risk of catching it from anybody because.
Well, but I mean, I think my attitude is that we really need to listen to Tony Fauci. That if we want to get to herd immunity, we all need to do this. I had 2 shots. I've had no issues at all. And I really think for the benefit of everybody, this is something you don't just do for yourself.
Well, if I thought I were putting other people at risk, like for example, I always wear the mask when I leave home to go shopping or something like that. And actually, I don't shop very much anymore. I get Walmart or Publix delivery, and but there are a lot of people that don't think Tony Fauci is
okay.
Should be treated like a guy.
Let's not go there. The only reason I brought it up, was because of the when you start talking about getting pneumonia, it's the two don't go well together. And I just was thinking of your own protection.
Well, thank you.
I think Paul must have had propofol anesthesia and therefore was not intubated, and he had an aspiration pneumonia.
That's right. I've heard that term, aspiration pneumonia.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, guys, let's just all be grateful that you're on the recovery. We hope you continue to recover. And I think everybody's really feels for you that you had to go through it. So.
Yeah.
Peter, I know Jefferson Duryee has been talking about Provenge in the chat window. Can we have a quick chat on Provenge?
Yes, he wanted to talk about that. Yes, let's do it. Jefferson?
Yes, this is one of the suggestions that my oncologist has suggested amongst that, and then possibly the one that it scares everybody, not hormone therapy, but
chemotherapy?
Yes, chemotherapy. And 3 months ago, someone said, well, I should get the Provenge because I can have the Provenge while I'm on my ADT. And I was wondering, I know it could take up to 5 hours to get the sample out. I wondered how long it would take to have the sample put back in 2 days later after it's.
About 45 minutes.
Okay.
Who's done the Provenge? What advice? What thoughts? I mean, I have some thoughts, but I think there's probably guys on the call that have done Provenge. Anybody done Provenge?
Yes, that's Carl. I did Provenge a while back, and it's really no big deal. Leukapheresis is the process,
Right.
as most people know, and it's several hours initially, but to get it back in, as Rick has said, 45 minutes or so to get it back in.
I gotcha. So
here's Jefferson, here's the thing with the Provenge. We pretty much know now that if you're going to get Provenge, get it as early in the process as you can. So once your PSA has gone up 3 times, you're eligible. And you know, the big problem with Provenge is nobody knows whether it works or it doesn't. And people say, oh, well, it only gives you an extra 3 months. Well, in the trial that it was approved, which I think the difference was, I can't even remember now, 2.8 or 4.2 or something like that. The reason was because the people they gave it to were in very late stage disease at that time. This is back around 2010. And it made a significant difference for people at the end of their journey. But if we give it early, we know it can make a much bigger difference. There was a study a few years back, maybe Herb or Len remembers it better, where they were talking about, I think, around somewhere between 21 and 27 months difference. And that's always an average number, by the way. And the PI, the principal investigator, the guy who discovered Provenge, is on our advisory board. We know him well. And as he says, the longer the landing strip, the more advantage you're going to get out of it. So thank God I've never needed it. But if I had the option to get it, I would get it. And I wouldn't be really looking to see any clear benefit from it that I could recognize.
I understand. But that would be 2 months that I could work with that. And then if she wants to go to chemotherapy, then I can work with that.
Right.
You've got to be metastatic and castrate resistant before you're eligible. And as Rick said earlier, the better. The fellows who do best are the ones who begin it when their PSA is less than 20.
Well, my PSA is rising, and she's concerned when it gets up to a 2. She says we got to try something else. I'm at a 0.16, but I was at a 0.01 for almost 21 months, and it's on the rise.
Very good. Yep, sounds like you're eligible.
So.
Okay.
I see her next month.
Okay. Herb, you had
Yes.
something you want to talk about.
Well, I mean, I did have my 3-month exam today, and other than we've already discussed my moderate problems with blood work, the PSA is stable at 1.7. So, I would have liked it to go down, but I'll take it. I'll take stability. I mean, I also discussed, what if what would we do next? That's what I had that discussion. And she wouldn't go there. She said, let's just do, she says, by the time you need it, things may be different. So that's the report for today. So I will have a glass of scotch after this meeting.
That's my boy. Okay. Now look here. What other numbers other than the hemoglobin? Was anything else out of line? And the
Yeah, I mean, they're all out of line. I mean, platelets were low, platelet count is low, hemoglobin is low, hematocrit is low. There's a bunch of stuff that were, you know, at moderately low. They're not dangerously low, but they're not great.
What about your alk phos and stuff like that?
Alk phos was low too. But that we don't want to be high. We want that to be low.
Right.
Alk phos was low. And the other thing I have, you know, I have something called Jobert syndrome. I don't know how many of you know about Jobert syndrome.
What do you spell it?
It's basically bilirubin is high in the morning without food. So if I went in for a fasting test, morning fast, my bilirubin would be high, and bilirubin high is a negative number for abiraterone because it has liver toxicity. So one thing I make sure I do is eat before I go in for my blood work.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I had bad liver function all the way through my ADT from the very, very beginning. ALT, AST, bilirubin, the whole thing. It threw me off, and I always felt liverish, which is, I think, a British expression.
Yeah.
And I don't know how. I've never figured out quite how to translate it, but I always felt liverish from it. What I want to know is bilirubin related to Jobert?
Yes, I mean, yes. Bilirubin, does he know Jobert? I never knew if they knew each other.
Okay, just asking, just checking.
At any rate, you know, I would have preferred after having the radiation that it went down, but you know, there was also, by the way, a paper that came out, which is a reanalysis of STAMPEDE of people who got prostate radiation. And their take on it is that the radiation was most effective in extending life the fewer metastases you had. So there was a clear trend. The more metastases you had, the less it worked. On the other hand, there was always standard deviation, and so you always hope you're on the end of the standard deviation that might work. So there we are. Thanks, Peter.
Okay. Al Latimer. You're on. You're muted. There you go.
Muted no more. So I'm freshly back from California and UCLA. I had a PSMA PET scan about 10 days ago, and I now have the results. And I've talked to Dr. Schultz in California and also Dr. A at Johns Hopkins, and they're both telling me that my next step, well, I should say where I am right now, I have failed ADT, I have failed Xtandi, and now I have failed Lynparza. It took 25 years for all that to happen, but I am there now. They're both saying that I should do what you were just talking about, that I should do the Provenge. And I want to get the take on the audience here as to, you know, well, we've already heard some things about it. I'm wondering if there's any particular questions I should ask or what other options I might be considering. Oh, by the way, the PSMA, I didn't even tell you that. I have some lymph node involvement in my abdomen, and I have some positive mets in the prostate bed. No bone scan, no bone involvement whatsoever. And my PSA right now has jumped up to 30.
Wow.
Say that again. Abdomen and the prostate bed is the
Abdomen and prostate bed, yes. As far as I know, I mean, I've looked at the report. It's pretty much Greek to me, but that's what Dr. Schultz is telling me.
And was that lymph nodes in the abdomen?
Yeah, lymph nodes in the abdomen, yes. And the prostate, and something in a couple spots in the prostate bed is what they're telling me.
How much How much radiation have you done over this 25 years?
Well, prostate cancer wise, I had some spot radiation to my abdomen 15 years ago at the Cancer Institute in Sarasota.
Mm-hmm.
Whether these hot spots are in the same spot or not, I don't know at the moment. I'm in contact with the to try to figure out exactly where I was radiated before. I had a prostate scan, and I had a lymph node that was positive that they were radiating. That was in the pelvis area, but it's been so long I don't remember.
Al, do you make a lot of PSA? I mean, are you one of these guys who always has high PSAs?
Well, I believe so, because I've had my PSA has been as high as 200, and I've still had negative scans. Not with the PSA, but with the regular scans. When I had scans last summer, my PSA was 15, and the scans were negative. So it seems as though I make a lot of PSA with less disease.
You know, guys, this is really, it's great, this call today, because we've heard guys who make no PSA and maybe their disease is progressing. And now we're hearing about guys who make a lot of PSA and their disease is progressing, but not that fast. And the doctors feel fairly comfortable in suggesting Provenge as a next step. And so, you know, the lesson from this that I take is that we all make PSAs at different rates, and some doctors don't even think about that. They sort of jump in and say, oh, the PSA is going up, we've got to do this, that, and the other. But a lot of it may depend on people who, you know, they make different PSAs at different rates. Len, Herb, Jake, anybody want to, Peter?
I think that's true. I mean, we just don't know.
Well, Al is amazing in the fact that he's been dealing with this thing for over 20 years. I mean, he's got a great track record and a great attitude toward it all.
I just had my 25th anniversary for my radical prostatectomy at Johns Hopkins in December. So this has been a long haul. I got almost 20 years out of just ADT. There's hope out there, but it's I'm beyond that now. I'm in a new world.
Al, when was the last time you did any sort of genomic sequencing?
Dr. Turner, I forget. Dr. Turner did it maybe a year and a half ago, something. I guess maybe the last time was when I started the Lynparza, which was at this point roughly 2 years ago.
You know, it might well be worth raising that with either both Dr. A and Schultz are very much in favor, although they would probably go to different places to get you tested. You know, Dr. Schultz likes Guardant. Can't say I'm a huge fan of Guardant, but I have a bias, which you all know because I work closely with FMI. And I think Dr. A is more likely to go to FMI, but it could be a good time, and you could do it. You're eligible, it's covered by Medicare, and you can do a liquid biopsy.
And what might that tell me in addition?
Well, it might point out. I mean, we know that you have BRCA positive, and that was germline, correct?
Yes.
So we know you're BRCA positive, but there could be other mutations that you carry that might make you eligible for other specific drugs, and we don't know what. But there are other precision drugs. You know, the BRCA mutation is not the only mutation that has a drug associated with it. And I mean, Peter, you can probably speak a little bit to this.
Yeah, I mean, the cancer mutates, just like COVID mutates. Cancer mutates too. So, I mean, I don't have a germline BRCA mutation, but I have a somatic BRCA mutation, and it opened the door for my treatment last year. So, things change. Even my MSI changed, went from stable to high in a year or two. So it's worth getting a test.
So if you're MSI high, you're approved for an immunotherapy called Keytruda or pembrolizumab, and certain other ones too. But that's why, I don't think it can hurt, and especially now that we've managed to work with the FDA to get this liquid biopsy test or biopsy approved more than once in a lifetime. If there's a significant change in the disease, in your case, the significant change is that you're no longer responding to the PARP inhibitor with a BRCA mutation. And I would be raising that with both. I mean, I would say do the Provenge. Now's probably a good time to do the Provenge. And talk to the guys, talk to your docs about, do you think it's worth getting a liquid biopsy?
Okay. So I'm sure I could do that with Dr. Scholes if hadn't really thought about that. He hadn't brought it up when I talked to him. He was kind of in a hurry when I did the virtual call. I was a little frustrated with trying to keep him on the phone, but but that did not come up.
Yeah, but Al, if you do it with him, ask him specifically, is Gardner going to measure my MSI?
Oh,
and my tumor burden.
MSI is the key term.
Well, it's not a key. It's not the key, but it's definitely a number you want measured along with everything else. And I know FMI, Foundation Medicine, does it. I'm not 100%. Does anybody know? Has anybody here had a Guardant test? Do you know if they do measure MSI or not?
I've had the Guardant test. I don't remember.
They do.
They do? They do, Ken?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Rick, you're suggesting doing that at the same time or subsequent to the Provenge?
Oh, I mean, I don't think it matters. I would just get it done as soon as you can. It takes 2 weeks turnaround. It's a blood test. The thing is that you're now back in Florida, right?
I am in Florida, yes.
So you're going to have to get a lab to draw your blood, and I mean, Schultz can order it, but you're going to have to get somebody local to draw your blood.
Well, I have a local oncologist also that I needed somebody local. So I'm not the Keytruda. I'm not going to go to California to do it. I'm hoping I can do it locally here.
Oh, well, first of all, we don't even know if you're eligible for Keytruda. So, you're talking about Provenge, you mean?
I'm sorry, I said the wrong word. Yes, Provenge. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Provenge you'll be able to do locally, and you'll have to arrange that with through your local oncologist working with either Dr. A or Schultz. But for a liquid test, depending on who you get to order, I mean, you could ask your local oncologist to order it. He'd probably order it for you.
I think maybe I'll just do that. It'd be a little easier. I can have the blood drawn right there.
Yeah, and he orders the kit, and Bob's your uncle. Right, Jake? It's not a big deal.
Al, I've got
correct.
one quick question for you. How long did you have to wait to get a PSMA test at LA? Was there a long line?
Well, at the group suggestion last December, I had a virtual phone call with Dr. I forgot her name at MD Anderson, the lady Elena.
Right.
And she suggested that I get the test, and she started the order in exactly the same day it was approved by the FDA. So I pushed it back because I wanted to get vaccinated first before I ventured out into the real world. I could have had it a month earlier than I did, but now I understand they're out into May and June for having the test done. This was UCLA.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I figured it's gonna take a while these days.
When you call the number there, they have a specific extension now for the PSMA PET.
Okay, let's keep moving here. There's a few more to go. Ben, you had something you wanted to bring up.
So American Ginseng seems to be on a lot of people's minds. And I see it in capsules, and Ken talked about tea. Ken, you had talked about tea. How often do you take it? Do you take the capsules at all? Does anybody know about or take the capsules?
Well, mine, yeah, I can tell you mine was a tea in tea form. I know you can buy it through, I think there was a site on Amazon where you could get American Ginseng in the capsule form. I was fortunate I had someone that was able to send me raw ginseng, and I just kind of made it into tea. So, but I know you can buy it on Amazon.
And how often would you drink the tea?
Well, I tried, in the very beginning, it was like green tea. Everyone said drink tea like 6 times a day or 12 times a day. So I did drink, I can say on average, and for that like 8, 9 months that I felt like it really did work, probably like a daily. It wasn't like I was drinking gallons of it, and I'd have it in the morning. So, but I can honestly say it helped with the fatigue for sure, So,
Did you have a hot flashes problem as well, and did it help with that?
honestly, I had a lot of hot flashes. I used to count them with the little clicker at my desk. So I can tell you, I don't think it helped with the hot flashes. Yeah, unfortunately, but I just don't.
If you want help with the hot flashes, get Depo-Provera shots. They almost completely stop them. You do not get the fatigue from the shot when you get if you get a minor hot flash, you don't get the fatigue, which is one of the worst things about the hot flashes. I get a Depo-Provera shot every 3 months, and it really makes a major difference. It does take about 8 or 9 days before it takes effect, but it's the most effective. I take a little CBD, but it's not nearly as effective.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you both.
Okay, we're getting close to the end here. I want to. There's a few people like.
Peter, can I just say on ginseng, guys, because there's been some discussion in the window, and Ken pointed it out right at the beginning. You need the Wisconsin grown. I cannot tell you why, but I do know that that is supposed to be the best that's available. If you can get it, is the Wisconsin grown American ginseng.
Right, and what I found, I was in Minneapolis a couple of years ago, 2 years in a row, and the health food stores there carried Wisconsin ginseng. It said it right on the bottle. I don't know about Amazon, whether they would tell you that, but you could probably contact some Wisconsin health food stores, large health food chains, and probably get it shipped directly from a health food chain.
Looks like it is specified on Amazon.
Is it? Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Dennis McGuire, you came on later, and Gao Shan. Do any of you have anything you want to bring up tonight before we close out?
Yeah, just real quick. I started my trial last week. Had the first infusion of lutetium-177. Nothing big to report. I go back tomorrow for a 1-week update, blood work, as well as a scan. The scan is primarily to measure uptake of the lutetium and to make sure that the excess radiation has been eliminated.
So what was, tell us a little bit about the process, Dennis.
Oh, it's quite a process. The protocol for me was 3 nights in the hospital. The first day, I had 4 scans after the infusion, like 2 hours apart. Blood tests every hour for like the first 6 hours, and EKGs every hour for probably the first 6 hours. And then second, third day, and fourth day, it tapered off, and it was 1 scan per day and a couple blood tests per day. And really, you know, the purpose of all the tests are to measure the uptake, make sure it's going where it needs to go, make sure it's not going where it shouldn't go, and that the kidneys are eliminating the excess.
Hey, Dennis, did you ask them with all those scans they were giving you whether you actually needed the lutetium-177?
Not sure I followed the question.
Well, you were getting so much radiation from the scans.
Yeah.
You know, I'm wondering whether you actually needed the radionuclide.
Yeah, well, the scans were, they use the same machine that you use for the bone scan.
Mm-hmm.
So they call it a planar scan.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And you didn't feel any oh, sorry, I'm just somebody just put something in the chat window. Can somebody tell can somebody tell David Keller that the AS meeting is tomorrow night and not tonight?
I will do that.
At 8 o'clock. Thanks, guys.
I think you just told him, Rick.
Did you feel anything, or did you?
Yeah, that's part of it. Did you feel? I mean, I know you said for me in regards to spending 3 nights in the hospital, that was not just for you, that was for everyone in the trial. Wasn't something unique. You didn't have something come up that you had to spend 3 nights.
No, that's part of the program. You sign up for the trial.
So once you got lutetium, though, did you feel anything?
You know, it was a little bit like after a dose of chemo where you just feel lethargic and low energy. But that was really it, and it just seems to get better every day as you eliminate you know, the bad stuff.
Do you have like a date when they're going to give you the test that's going to show whether or not it's effective? Is it 2 weeks out, 4 weeks out?
I believe it is after the second infusion, so it's like week 7.
So we have to be patient.
We have to be patient. I think I will, you know, I probably will have a PSA test before that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, Dennis, what's your baseline PSA?
Oh, you know, I would prefer to hold off on that one until I have some good news to report.
Because I've been slipping up here, and I don't have a PSA number for you since 11/20, when it was 35. Okay.
Dennis, this is Jake. Have you had any salivary issues yet so far?
You know, I definitely was prepared for that, so I've been drinking a lot of water. The only time I've really noticed dry mouth is in the morning. Obviously, you go a full night without drinking anything. But, you know, a big glass of water and I'm back to normal.
Okay, good. So I understand that was one of the big side effects that bothers people. Not that it's serious, but it's bothersome. So
Yeah,
good, I'm
it
glad.
definitely can be. And, you know, that again, that's one of the reasons they do these scans. And the scans that we saw, there was no uptake in the salivary glands.
Oh, good. That's great.
Okay, well, keep us posted, Dennis. And so I think we're all eager to support you and learn about what you're going through, because it's the future, I guess. You know, these kind of treatments.
Dennis, this is Al Latimer. I didn't hear where you're having this study done.
University of Wisconsin in Madison. It's
the doctor.
You know, I'm sorry.
Who's the lead doctor?
Dr. Stephen Cho, nuclear medicine.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a significant amount of radiation. I was in an isolation room, and when they came in the room, they had, you know, full like hazmat suits on, and it's a bit of an adjustment.
All right, enough. You're starting to scare me.
Okay, before we move on, Jim Ward, Carl, anybody else have any? Kang, I see Kang has just joined us at the end here. Anybody else have anything pressing that they need to get in tonight?
Yeah, Peter, you missed me, Frank Fabish.
Okay, Frank, go ahead.
A quick update. I have my 4th chemo treatment Thursday, and the 3rd one was difficult. I'm not sure what's going to happen with this one. But interesting thing is that my doc went ahead and requested authorization for Orgovyx in place of Firmagon, and I was approved both by the VA and Aetna for that pill. And I was due for my 6th treatment in 10 days, and I'll be going on the Orgovyx in place of the Firmagon.
Good.
So that's a quick update on where I'm at.
And you said number 3 was rougher. Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably it was the most difficult of the 3 so far, right during the mid-range of the 3-week cycle.
Right.
So I'm not sure how the 4th is going to be.
It'll be rough, and 5 for me was a game changer. I mean, I called up my doc and said, "Is 6 necessary?" And he said yes, and I had to go for it, but it's cumulative. So you know, fasten your seatbelt. You'll be okay, but it's a ride. But
it is.
You come out the other end. You'll be okay.
Frank, look at that head of hair that Peter Kafka has. Even if you didn't have hair before, you can finish up like that. You know?
That's my worry. It's going to come back like that and red.
Frank, how's your cellulitis doing?
It's still there. It's still involved the first joint on my finger, and it's taking its time clearing up. It's still very sore, but the hand surgeon said that the antibiotics work, and it's just going to take a little bit of time and to start moving the hand, and it will help the swelling.
Right. Andre, you're in the wrong room, man. You got to get into the other room. Andre?
Okay, yeah, I'm headed there. I clicked on the wrong
You're in
link.
the wrong room. We'd love to see your face in this room, but I'll see you over in the other room shortly. Take care of yourself, Captain.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Kang, are you doing okay? Your microphone's off. There you go.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I messed up the time. I thought it was 8 p.m. and then I took a look at it again. It was 6 Eastern. So sorry.
Tuesdays it's 6 Eastern, right?
Yeah. My doctor originally was going to do the chemo based on the PSMA I brought back from China, and afterwards, before they do the chemo, they did a bone scan, full body bone scan, and also a CAT CT. And at those time, my PSA was already somewhere around, I think, hold on a second, I think it was 5 point something. That was after I had the Zoladex 10.8 since December the 23rd. That was like so that was February 12th. February 12th, so it was almost 2 months. So there was not much of anything showing up in the scan at all, neither bone or neither CAT CT. So the doctor decided to change the chemo into abiraterone 1000 and prednisone. I asked him. I did ask him if. Well, I didn't even know what I'd ask him because I guess I still need to learn this thing before I could ask the right question. He said, "Well, since it's from the PSMA, it's metastasized, so we, but since your PSA is low, like 5 something, so it's not showing as much. But the current standard of care treatment is abiraterone and the prednisone, which I started taking since about 10 days ago."
Okay, well, it should start dropping your PSA. We'll see how you do on that. Okay, so some guys are dropping off, some guys are coming on. It's been a good evening. It's been a productive evening.
Peter, are you there?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, you forgot me, but it's okay. I have to go.
No, I don't.
Maybe get some time next week.
Okay. I thought about it at one point, but go ahead. You're on.
You thought about what?
It occurred to me that I forgot you, but then I forgot again. Go ahead.
You forgot me twice. Excellent.
Jimmy, tell us how you
do. I have to go.
We want to know. For those of you who don't know, Jimmy got an artificial urinary sphincter last week. We had 2 guys in the hospital, him and Elliot at the same time. Misery loves company. How are you doing today?
I'm better. I had a real misadventure. It was really, really hard. It's a story. I won't go on about it, but there's some things I want to talk about. Next week, I'll talk.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Herb's gone. We'll make sure. We'll try and go back to the regular system next week where we poll everybody so we don't miss folks.
No, he told me.
I think I did poll everybody, but I missed.
Forgot me, and they remembered, and they forgot again.
Okay. Okay.
It's okay, Peter. You did a great job. Thank you.
It ain't easy. It
I
ain't
know it's
easy.
not easy.
Forgive us.
It's not easy. I know that.
Guys, if you're here for an 8:30 meeting, we're going to close this one, and then you'll have to reopen. In a couple, as soon as Peter's done, we're going to close this meeting, and then you can reopen a second one.
No,
Just so
we
you know.
don't have anybody, Jake. We're good.
Oh, nothing scheduled for 8:30?
We do, but there's nobody, we don't have any EMS guys in here. The guy
Okay.
that came in was for the RMC meeting,
Okay.
so we're good.
Okay, guys, remember that this next Sunday is daylight savings time, and it's going to affect some of us, not all of us, but keep that in mind so you don't want to miss next Monday's meeting.
That's
Right.
right.
And that one is at 8 o'clock.
Right.
They're all at 8 o'clock, except for some of us, they're not.
Right.
Not for me in Portland. Thanks, guys. Really appreciated it.
Pleasure.
Good night,
Come on
guys.
back, Ted.
Take care.
Night.
Bye. Kang, I've got a quick question for you. Oh, he's gone. Okay. All right. See you. Peter.
Yes.
Well, hold on a sec. I think most of these people are